My neighbor told me I couldn't put out my trash, so I put his on vacation hold. So I rent a house with my husband and 2 of our friends. It's a 5-bedroom house. Rent is outrageous in our area, $2,400 for a 1-bedroom apartment. So we found this house for $3,000, not a bad deal while we save up to buy a house. There are other houses in the neighborhood like this as well. Our next door neighbors, their house is a 5-bedroom house and they have 9 people living in their house, so it is chaos over there all the time. In our neighborhood we can choose the trash company, so it just so happens that we have the same trash company as the next door neighbors. Our trash company does like us to have the trash out by 7 a.m. We don't always get it out that earlier though, and that's where this problem started. Most of the time they don't pick up our trash until 11 a.m. so obviously, as long as the trash is out before trash pickup gets here, they take our trash. The people next door have 3 trash cans, and they are overflowing every single week. They put your trash out the night before, but unfortunately your neighborhood has raccoons and foxes, so the trash is always getting into, and last time a raccoon got into their trash, it left a mess in our yard and they wouldn't pick it up. I was prettiest about it, but I just let it go, cleaned up their trash. I did go and put it back in their trash can and they just sat out front glaring at me while I did that. Here's where this incident started. A couple weeks ago, I didn't get our trash out until almost 9 a.m. All 4 of us was sick with COVID. I was on the mend and feeling a little bit better, but I slept in and forgot to put out the trash at 7 a.m. So I go to put the trash out and my neighbor starts yelling at me saying, "You were supposed to have your trash out by 7 a.m. You can't put your trash out now." I said, "Well, they haven't come and pick up the trash because your trash cans are full, so it's not a big deal." He said, "No, that's the rules. Your trash has to be out by 7 a.m. If it's not, you can't get your trash picked up this week." I said, "I understand that you want the trash out by 7 a.m. but they haven't come and picked it up yet, so it doesn't matter." So I went ahead and I just walked inside. I went back to bed and a couple hours later I get up to see that our trash cans were put to the side of the house and they were still full of trash. So that means that someone moved our trash can. Our neighbor came up to me the next day and said that she saw him put our trash can back. She didn't know the situation, so she wasn't going to but in and tell him to not do that. Our neighbors are also very proud about their last name. They literally have a flag in their front window with their last name, so I called the trash company and I said that I was Mrs. So-and-so and I needed to set up a vacation hold for our upcoming pickup. They said no problem, we won't pick up your trash next week. They legit only asked for the address, no other information. The next week I made sure that our trash was out at 6:45 a.m. Then I sat and I watched for the trash truck and I watched them come past the house. They drove past my neighbor's house, didn't pick up their trash, even though their trash was overflowing, picked up ours and the other few people who also hobby them and left. I know I'm an SS hole for doing this, you don't need to tell me, I may have crossed the line. But he also crossed the line by touching our cans and moving them and setting foot on our property. SS hole brother regrets calling my wife a aunt. So, my older brother is a sociopath. He used to hold me down when I had a loose tooth and pull it out with pliers. My parents always downplayed it, saying I was just sensitive. Fast forward 20 years and he's married to a woman who almost seems to enjoy his hairpin trigger of a temper. Sil and my wife used to work at the same hospital. Sil got fired but still has moles planted to keep her current on the gossip. Anyway, I find out that she's spreading awful rumors about my wife to all her coworkers and my wife is crying because it's so humiliating. So, I confront Sil and brother over group text basically saying you're hitty people, and it's time to let go of the job you got fired from. Now, my brother flips the UCK out. When he's mad, he's the punch the wall type of person. But he also will say anything he has to in order to get to you. My wife suffered from pretty bad postpartum depression, and he used that to say she's a hitty mother and calls her a aunt. To me, he uses the fact that I struggled with addiction many years ago, been clean for a long time, but that doesn't stop him from calling me a piece of hit addict, and that I will never get to his level of success. A few weeks after the incident, I find out from someone at work that he's running to be elected to the hockey board in our local town. I live in MN, so this is a big deal. Hockey boards are like being in the ucking Illuminati. They're very much narcissistic and think they're better than everyone else because they get a conference room. So I decided to screenshot the texts he sent my wife and I and emailed them to the chairman of the board. I urged him to think twice about allowing someone who calls a woman a aunt and basically has no morals. Hockey chairman gets back to me and says that my brother is no longer in consideration 4th position and that he's forwarding the texts to other board members. My brother is now looked at much differently in the hockey community. He's being ostracized essentially. My brother only cares about looking good to other people and this completely ruined him. It's a small community. He's no longer invited to the fundraising events and is kicked out of the little inner circle that he so desperately wanted. To my brother. UCKU. Edit. I did not expect this response. I wish I could respond to everyone to tell you how much your kind words mean. To clarify, we had cut off all communication and blocked both of their phone numbers for roughly 3 years. Every once in a while something would come up that they were spreading rumors and I ignored it. But I eventually reached a point where I wanted to stand up to my bully. I forced my bad neighbors into an unwanted move. I got my very first apartment at the ripe age of 26. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford one without roommates. I was a model tenant, paid my rent on time every month, polite to the office workers, never caused trouble. I lived on the top floor of a 3-story building. Well, 2 years after I moved in, I had new neighbors move into the apartment below me. I was working a swing shift, so my hours were 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and I often stayed up late to 3 a.m. to do minor chores, dishes, cooking, cleaning, but not vacuuming. I also had 2 cats at the time. My new neighbors immediately went on the warpath against me. I could not make any noise without them banging on my floor. I unloaded my dishwasher at 11 a.m. on a Sunday and they flipped out. They complained to the office about my herd of animals. They sent police to my door at 9 p.m. because I was watching TV at a reasonable volume with the subtitles on. I literally could not make any sound without them complaining. It culminated in one of them pounding on my door for 10 minutes after I dared call the office to express my frustration. So I called the office back. Told them that I did not feel safe in my apartment due to my neighbor's actions, legal grounds for me to break my lease, but then I dropped my bombshell. My neighbors had 4 people in a 1-bedroom apartment that had a 2-person max capacity. Apartment management told my neighbors they had to move into a more expensive 2-bedroom apartment or their lease would be terminated. They moved to the larger apartment on the other side of the complex. My new neighbors were great. 2 adult men who smoked weed on the balcony. Never even spoke to them, loved them. So you ghost me on payday? I am gonna ghost you on presentation day. So I just resigned from my job, small company, cause my manager would not pay me on time. He would avoid me on payday and I would have to seek him out and ask why he hasn't paid me yet. I work remotely so we don't see each other often. Granted, he wasn't always this bad, but he always paid me later than he was supposed to. This year, however, it got worse as the company started doing badly. I am an understanding person, but what irritated me more than anything was how I'd have to ask him why I am not paid instead of him informing me that things are about and salary will be delayed. So I started planning my exit plan. We also had a big project that we were working on and was supposed to be presented for the clients. Comes presentation day, I don't show up, he texts and calls and I ignore him. Then later that day, I emailed him my resignation. I thought I should make him feel what he's made me feel for months. You're not my doctor. Years ago, I used to work as a pharmacy tech for Amahor Retail Pharmacy. Occasionally, we'd have to deal with patients that also happen to be doctors who believe they deserve VIP status. These are the kind of people that think that going to school for a long time means they should be held at a higher regard compared to others. This one particular doctor, we'll call him Drive Smith, came in one day and while ringing him up he balked at the price of the prescription. Typically prescription copays were even dollar amounts, but this was not. Given that this was early in the year and the price was what it was, I posited thought they was seeing his insurance deductible being added into the copay price. This was a typical issue we would see at the start of every year because many people don't know how their insurance plans work. He insisted that it was not his deductible and the insurance must have not been billed. I showed him confirmation of insurance billing, approval and THE price breakdown. He wasn't having it. Cue the following dialogue. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. If you want to call your insurance company to get more information, you can. But I can assure you the billing was performed correctly. That's Dr. Smith. You're not my doctor. A silence fell in the general vicinity. Pills stopped being counted. Bags stopped being packed. I didn't break eye contact. His wavered. I don't know how many times in his life he tried to pull that card on people in situations where being a doctor was completely irrelevant in order to assert some misguided sense of dominance, but he found out that day that it was all an illusion. He pulled out his credit card, paid, mumbled something unintelligible, and left visibly embarrassed. Block me in, I'll block you in. So about a year ago, I was at a lake way north from where I live. I came back to the parking lot to find my car blocked in by someone who thought it was a genius idea to leave their car directly behind 3 parked cars. I was the middle car, definitely couldn't get out. I waited and waited, and right before I was going to call a tow truck, a couple walks up and casually gets in the car and proceeds to drive off. I quickly backed up, circled around the other way to get to the parking lot exit first. I get to the exit, and he's right behind me. I throw the car in park, and just sit there. 10 seconds later, he's laying on the horn. Eventually he gets out and walks up to my window and starts yelling profanities and tells me to get out of the way. Something to note here, there is only one exit in this parking lot, and the entrance for some reason is one-way spikes to prevent people from leaving that way. No idea why, since this is just the parking lot for a lake. Anyway, I cut him off and tell him he made me wait 17 minutes and 20 seconds, I timed it, when he illegally blocked me in, and I intend to wait 17 minutes and 20 seconds to let him leave. He storms off, calls me a few names in the process, and floors it in reverse. He drives down to the entrance and without noticing the spikes, I guess, drives right into them. I see his brake lights come on at the last minute, and pow, both front tires are redone. I then decided 17 minutes was a waste of time since he'd clearly be there longer than that, and so I left. Made the rest of my day feel much better.